morning. We are now into the edition of the Topical Discussion. My name is Simon Kagwanjala. My guest this morning is Honorable Amelia Chambadde, the Minister for Trade and Industry. She joins us this morning to tell us what she thinks about COVID-19 and how much impact it's having on business as the country and the world remains in lockdown. So many businesses closed, with others on the brink of closure, permanent closure. Is there any resuscitation plan that would be mooted by government? Honorable, what a pleasure having you. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you locking down?
Well, I'm managing. It hasn't been very easy, but it has given me time to rethink a lot of things in my life, my ministry, government, economy, Uganda as a whole. So I would like to thank you very much for hosting me.
Excellent. These are very tough times, especially for your docket as the Minister of Trade. You drive in all towns, they're deserted, malls are closed, factories have closed, business has come to a standstill. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would just like to give you an overview of for example, the impact on trade, international trade. Well, the trade flows, when you look at January, the trade flows were $383.6 million US dollars. But as we come down, and those were the exports. But as we come down to February, it came down to 352.4. You can see the graph is gradual, and I hope it maintains that. But when it came to imports, the imports were 711.9 in January, but in March we have 593. That's a bit shocking. It's, the imports have been affected, but also the exports. So trade generally has been has been affected.
Bring it home.
But the cargo flows, the cargo flows have continued. Of course, there's been a bit of a decline in the cargo flows, the exit and entry, because of some of the measures we have taken, both us and Kenya. The testing of the borders. For example, the trucks used to be 3,092 per day.
On a daily?
Daily. But now they've gone down to about 800. 800 because of the measures both countries have taken. And we are still grappling with them. Which driver comes in? Another driver comes in with COVID. How do we control them? How many are supposed to be in that truck? So there is a bit of a challenge, even in the region, because you find that our neighbors are saying you are not supposed to go to Burundi. The trucks, so that has also brought about a bit of a decline in that you cannot transit through. So now let me talk about home here in Uganda. Before I do that, I would like to thank a number of people. I'd like to thank His Excellency, the President, and the leadership he has taken in championing this struggle. But also Minister of Health for being proactive. I think that they've helped. But mainly also media, because if all these messages were going around, who is supposed to promulgate them or broadcast them? So the media has also played a pivotal role. I'd like to look at the Ugandans, at the community. Ugandans have been highly responsive. They have responded fully to the SOPs, the Standard Operating Procedures by Ministry of Health. They've responded to the instructions. And definitely that is what has helped us to contain that virus in this country. COVID, people have told you so many stories about COVID. Let me concentrate on my sector. My sector, of course, there were a number of challenges that were raised in the beginning. I'll talk about essential commodities. Essential commodities, like the consumables, things that we use in our daily life, are actually available. And I would like to owe that to the policies that we have had. For example, Bobo. Bobo triggered the production of so many items, essential commodities for local consumption. For example, when you look at things like sugar, things like detergents, household goods, baby foods, and all those, when you walk into supermarkets, you find that 40% are local goods. That has helped to cushion our economy. The most challenging issue has been salt. Do we have a solution for salt? Yes. There is a factory called Kampala Industries, which is opening next week, and it's on Ginger Road, and it's going to produce 192,000 metric tons of salt. We have been importing salt all along.
In a crisis.
In a crisis, and it's been test running. It has run its products. They've been tested, so they're already on the market. And we have another factory that has come up, herbal salt. So these are some of the opportunities that have emerged from this COVID, because nobody ever thought that salt would be a crisis. But that has been the outcry.
Several weeks down the road, the price of salt remains high. Can't you make any intervention to stabilize it?
That is our main solution, that this factory is going to run emergency production, and we'll have salt on the market. But there's been a bit of hoarding. We have discovered that people hoarded a lot of a lot of salt, when they realize that it is a product that is not produced here as yet. And it is a shame that we haven't been producing salt here. So that one, the price, I must admit, has gone up to 6,000.
You cannot confront the hoarders of these commodities.
The hoarders, we can. In fact, we are working with the district commercial officers. But apparently what has emerged is that it's mainly in the urban centers. Those who are hoarding, they are here. We have spotted them. We are zeroing down on them. They're here in Kampala. Some are in Bale. Some are in Ginger. And they've spotted them for us. Well, the president was thinking of importing, but I feel that we need to take drastic measures against them, because it's very selfish at this time for you to hoard when you know that there is an essential commodity needed out there. I must tell you that the other prices have gone down dramatically. Ask me why. Low purchasing power. The demand is low. When we started this crisis, sugar, can you imagine, had gone up to about 7,000. But now in some supermarkets, it's gone back to about 3,600. It has gone down to 4,000. But still, there's some people, especially the shops in the outskirts, who are selling it at a higher price. Of course, they're justifying it with transport and the conditions they go through, roadblocks and all that. But there's free flow of cargo. In fact, the enforcement agencies have been very supportive as far as cargo is concerned.
Without dwelling on commodity by commodity, the overall picture of business looks quite bleak, and it's getting more and more worrying. With the situation deteriorating, do you have a list of interventions? Take, for instance, rent.
Yes, I have a number of challenges, and I was going to go up to that. The members of the private sector have expressed a number of challenges. Number one is rent. Rent is such a complex aspect of all this, because I've tried to engage some of the landlords, but the arguments they give me, they tell me we borrowed money to build these structures, and we need to pay back within a certain time. And some of them say they borrowed money from abroad, not here. Because I was trying to say, what if we negotiate with the banks And these banks give you reschedule your loans. But some of them say they've already rescheduled twice. And the banks have got a law that when you reschedule twice, they cannot reschedule another time. So I would just like to appeal to the landlords that let us have a humane face and at least not demand or not throw out our occupants now, our tenants. Because
it's tight.
It is tight. It's very difficult for government to implore landlords over rent. But when they heard that the president was negotiating with the banks over the loans, some of them say they'll be a bit flexible over that. The other challenge that the private sector has are taxes. Taxes, Revenue Authority has accepted to offer some relief measures. And in fact, now they're not even demanding taxes. But they accepted to reschedule some of their demand. But of course, the liability still remains. They might extend it, reschedule it, but it still remains. But at least now they will not put you under pressure. The other issue, of course, is uncertainty for employment. That is also worrying our people. In fact, I've had so many people calling me that now that the companies are closed, will I ever get back to my job? That is also another issue. Of course, government employees are secure, but the people who are uncertain about their future,
their jobs are on the line.
Jobs on the line are those who are working in factories and private companies and private medium enterprises. And of course, we have tried to engage some of the employers to at least give them time, because you cannot terminate someone who's been on lockdown for all this time.
Honourable, the farthest government can go is to just beg these employers to keep their people on the job, or is there a policy in place that could protect employees against this kind of exploitation?
There are labour laws. There are labour laws that should apply, especially those who subscribe to unions. Those are a bit protected. I think you've had unions have already started making noise. At least those who subscribe to unions are protected in one way or another. But that is not something I can dwell into in depth at the moment. But we are still negotiating. At the moment, all the factories have not been able to remain open. And when you look at Central and Eastern region, we only have about 215 factories that are fully functional. Why? Because of a skeleton team. Some lines cannot work with only a skeleton team. Two, some of the areas cannot accommodate, because we are saying your workers should stay at your workplace. But some of them say their products are hazardous, that they cannot accommodate people at the workplace. So as a result, they are accommodated in a nearby institution, but they have to reduce. But most of the essential commodities are open, for example, soap, cooking oil, and all things like that. But as you said, it has hit us hard. It has hit us hard as trade and industry.
Honourable, did you have any targets? I know there's been a huge disruption everywhere. All sectors have been hard hit. But as the Minister of Trade, did you have any targets that you feel you cannot score because of COVID-19?
Yes. For example, when you talk about factories, so now at the moment we have 4,700 and something factories. We had targeted that by the end of this year would have about 5,200. Why? Because we knew that some FDIs had expressed interest in investing here. We knew that some were under construction, but most of them are on borrowed money. Most of these factories, and they're telling you, it's very difficult for us to continue. 3, importation of raw materials. Most of them were importing their raw materials from China, from India. Some of them were on the high seas. Some of them had not even left the countries. So I can see that is one of the targets. 2, we wanted to go, we were advocating for import substitution and advocating for exports. And in so doing, we had stepped up production by giving out seedlings. Government was giving out seedlings to different companies. And of course, some of them have continued farming. But when it comes to value addition, it also leads to the same thing. How do we process? How do we move from point A to point A? It's only a month. It's only a month, but it's been detrimental to the economy. But all is not lost.
When you look ahead, it's likely to get worse.
When you look ahead, I would like to give you some of the opportunities that I think will salvage the situation. First, I'll start from the lessons that we have learned. We have learned lessons during this time.
The hard way.
A hard way. Number 1, this is an agriculture-based economy.
Right.
But we don't have sufficient storage infrastructure. Storage. So food security, that is why we have ended up giving out food from donations and buying food, because we do not have sufficient silos of food security storage infrastructure. That is a lesson, and it is something we are going to focus on. Of course, there are private ones.
You've now woken up.
We woke up. We have been planning for it, but I would say prioritize.
Right.
I cannot say we've been sleeping, but I would say we are going to prioritize. Fortunately, they are private ones. There are about 54 warehouses. But of course, the private ones are saying, if you want our maize, give us money. Of course, this business. If you want to store your goods here, give us money. So that one is a challenge. Another lesson we've learned is to adopt e-commerce in depth. And I can tell you that most of the people, you can see now, even when you try to communicate, it's slow. It's very, very slow. Internet is slow because everybody now is doing it. Now, all these imports that are coming in, how are they communicating? Online. So e-commerce now is the way to go, whether we want or not. We should get out of this thing of getting onto a plane, travel all the way to China, just to bring a few containers. You can just do it online. We just have to adopt an aura of trust in our business partners or strategic partnerships. So e-commerce is the way to go. 3, this is also a lesson for financial institutions, that they should not look at long-term loans. Let them start looking also at short-term loans for the SMEs, for the small, micro, and small enterprises. The other day I was on TV and I was watching Stanbic. You can see now they're speaking another language. They are calling out, all these banks now are calling out for the small and micro and small enterprises. Come, let us renegotiate your loans. Let us do that. I liked that. But before, the bank...
But they're doing it at their own volition. That means perhaps if you engaged them and put your case on the table, maybe things would do better.
Yes, I think we need to do that. We need to go. That's. I thank you for your advice. Another thing is African Continental Free Trade Area. This whole world globally is going to be in a long recession. We are talking about the impact it has had on our economy. In fact, we are better off because we have food. They have no food. We have food. We are agriculture-based. We have our minerals, which we can turn to. But all these other countries have exhausted their potential We have the potential here in Africa and in Uganda, in Africa. We are rich potentially. What we need to do is to shift our thinking into investing in those.
Honorable, you've been quite outspoken for Omuntu Wawansi, and you've boldly stood up to defend border cyclists. I want your strategy to speak to the mind of that ordinary person.
Well, how does the ordinary person get out of this?
Someone who pays a license?
Yes. So we want to negotiate with cases here to see that at least it does not harass you over the licenses, because we are the ones who own the policy of trade licenses, so that they don't harass you with the licenses, because there were private sector was anxious, especially the traders were saying they were worried that their licenses were going to be blocked. So that one we can negotiate, and we extend time for you so that we give you time to be able to salvage your business, to go on, to be able to renew your license. Now, when it comes to people like the borders, borders definitely are going to come back onto the market. First of all, the deliveries. Some of these borders have not bothered actually to do deliveries. They just parked their borders at home. But those who are innovative, they have been making money, delivering food from one point to another, because this was their time also to make deliverables. But they should also come up with, to rethink their business. Instead of parking in one crowded area, they could think of other means of, first of all, improving on their facilities. If you have a border, make sure that you improve, make it more attractive. Put an umbrella over it so that when a customer comes, you have a comparative advantage. I'm just citing an example. Comparative advantage over the other, because he knows he's protected from the sun, he's protected from the rain.
Do you imagine few border operators or small business operators are going to return to the market?
I'm afraid so.
There's going to be a huge collapse.
I'm afraid so. Do you know why? These borders are not owned by those people. These borders are owned by people like you and me. You don't know that secret. Because I've had people calling me and telling me, Munange, I have so many borders. Then you wonder. Because all along I thought these borders were owned by these people. So there's this employment issue. Will he continue? Will we continue employing this border man? He might decide to sell them, because remember, he's also in a crisis. The owner of those borders is in a crisis. He's looking for money, so he might sell. So I'm telling these border people, start rethinking your strategy. Your life is not in that border alone. We are offering skilling programs. Government is offering skilling programs. And they are going to roll out to all the districts. In fact, we started that program in Maokota. They are going to roll down to all. But you people, you don't want to attend, because I know whenever we call people to come for skilling, to learn on how to make briquettes, how to make soap, how to make all these small things, you don't want. The border just sit there and look at you when the others are going for training. The time is now for you to change your life. You're not going to die on that border. They should also go.
Honorable Amelia Chambade, in your rescue package, where are the key priority areas, the most urgent that you're going to fix, let's say in the next 10, 20, 30 days?
The most key, first of all, we have to step up production. Production, that is agriculture. But for me, my interest in that is value addition. We have been giving out small-scale equipment to a number of cooperatives. And this small-scale equipment, anybody can run it. You can mill maize, You can do small things like soap. We give out all those small-scale equipment. That is our priority, and that is starting from the grassroots. That is one. Two, we have to look at skilling. They're going to invest money in some of these banks. Government is going to invest money for small and medium enterprise, not only medium and big, but also small. And that is through UDB. Four, I would like to encourage people to join these circles. I know people think circles are not very helpful, but they are, because
some of them extort.
Some of them, we have had challenges with them, and I would like to thank my minister, Honorable Gume, who has been fully engaged in fighting or mitigating some of these challenges. And but you know, when you have a private sector-led economy, sometimes you do not know. For example, like when you're in Sweden, those are socialist countries. They just they put people on social welfare and start giving them money. But ours is a private sector-led economy. I feel that the struggle involves you and me, even the person at the grassroots. We need to step up the Youth Livelihood Fund. We have been injecting money in that as government. But we need to simplify the requirements. Because when you apply, there's a form you apply. I'm an ordinary person, I've never gone to school. So we need to simplify these requirements so that I, who was working as a boarder, if I've started another project, let's say rearing poultry, at least I should be able to afford that money to penetrate that project. So these are some of the issues we've been engaging with the locals, that this CBO, is it CBO? Commercial, the district commercial officer, the DCO, should help this ordinary person to access that fund. Because the money has been going every year. But it's just because people shy away. I've talked to the youth and I tell them, why don't you just, no, bizibunyo, you know, it's so difficult, you have to fill forms, you have to do this. But I think it is us now to simplify that so that they can access. So that is from a lower level. Then the higher level, of course, as I said, UDP, they'll be able to access UDP. That is another injection. But the farming is another area, and government had started giving out tractors to different people. But you deposit a certain, now that is medium. You deposit a certain amount of money on your account, and then you start, then they give you a tractor in groups, and you start growing food on a bigger scale.
So there is a rescue package?
There is a rescue package, and government in its budget has put a post-recovery economic budget, which I don't want to reveal in details, but it will be revealed.
Honorable, as we take a very quick break, I'm stepping in the mind of a person, a trader under Kasita, who feels already battered. They can no longer import, they can no longer do business. Everything is grinding to a halt. That kind of person needs to hear you at this say, forthwith, this is going to happen.
Okay. You want it now?
Yes.
Or after? Well, Kasita, we have had a number of engagements with you. It's time to have a shift from trading into adding value to some of the goods that you are bringing in. The president has also engaged Kasita for a long time, but of course it's not an overnight achievement. But the president said he's going to meet Kasita again, but they should have a plan and say that we who have been importing shoes, let us engage in making shoes here. How does government help us? We who have been engaged in importing textiles. We would like now to go into textile industry. What does government do for us? What government will do for you? We'll train you. We'll train your people. We'll give you money, incentives to support you. We'll give you land to support you. So my prayer to Kasita as traders, let us shift from trading and go for value addition. That is my prayer. And indeed, you will benefit because the president is looking at you as priority. You as traders, once you indicate 3 big projects or 2, definitely you'll be supported.
Well, let's take a very quick break as Honorable Amelia Chambadde continues to tell us whether there is indeed something in the park for Omuntu wa wansi, a trader who's been battered by this pandemic lockdown. We'll return after the break. Good morning.